All right, so if you believe that MOA is more precise than Milliradian, I hate to break it to you, but you do not have a thorough understanding of precision as it pertains to ballistics. Let's get into it. All right, folks, Gary here with Paramount Tactical Solutions. Yeah, man, you know what? Let's start this video out with an analogy. Let's say I came up to you one day and I said, hey, John, in this analogy, your name's John. I said, hey, John, guess what? I got this F350 over here, this big diesel truck over here, and guess what? I can turn this truck 90 degrees while doing 50 miles an hour. And of course, you're gonna look at me and you're like, what? What's going on? I'm like, no, listen to me. I can prove it. So I bring you over to my truck. I get in the truck, I start it, while I'm sitting still. I turn my steering wheel until my tires are at 90 degrees. I'm like, look, that's proof. That's proof that I can turn this truck 90 degrees while going 50 miles an hour. And of course, you're gonna look at me like I'm stupid, and you're gonna say, yeah, if reality didn't exist and physics weren't involved at all, maybe you could turn the truck 90 degrees at 50 miles an hour. Folks, when we say that quarter MOA is more precise than 1/10 of mil, that's exactly what we're talking about. We're taking a mechanical element of a system, the least important, by the way. It's one of the least important when it comes to actual precision, the least impactful on the system. And we're saying that because one component of this entire system can do something, it allows the entire system to do that. And that is not the case at all. You know, the cool thing about this day and age is that we have more long-range shooters than ever before, and that's a good thing. And most of that is due to the fact that we have free platforms like this, YouTube, the internet in general. You know, there's lots of information available that just wasn't, you know, available 10, 15, 20 years ago. The downside of that is that we have more long-range shooters than ever before that have learned everything they know from YouTube. And you know, the real problem with that is they have completely skipped over some of the fundamental information that they need to have, because the fundamentals aren't sexy. They're not nearly as cool. You know, it's kind of like if they offered martial arts or like jujitsu videos on YouTube. And I know there's jujitsu videos and other things like that. But if they ranked those videos, like, hey, this is white belt, this is yellow belt, this is green belt, blue belt, purple belt, so on and so forth. Folks, you will have everybody watching, you know, the black belt videos. That 90% of the views are gonna be there. You look down at the white belt videos, there's gonna be very few videos, even though that's the fundamentals of what people should be learning and what should be watched the most. Everybody wants to skip to the wazoo stuff, and that's just a fact. And I think that's part of the problem that we have with this debate. All right, so one thing you need to realize or accept, because I promise you it's true, is that everything in this video is a fact. This is not my opinion. These facts are provable and repeatable. You may not like it, you may not agree with it, you may not understand it, all right? You may not find my arguments compelling. I don't care, but these are indeed facts. I promise you that. I could easily do a 4-hour plus block of instruction just on this topic alone and still not cover it all. So trying to condense it down into a fairly short YouTube video is definitely a challenge. But the fact is, I'm gonna leave you all with some questions. If you have questions or you have arguments, as long as they're respectful, leave those down in the comments and I will try to get to those and address them, and or make follow-on videos, because this video is in response to some of the arguments that I keep hearing over and over. I've addressed, but the best way to answer this on a mass scale is definitely release this video. All right, so you know, you can learn long range on YouTube and some of these free sources to some extent, but I'm telling you, you're gonna be missing a lot. And whatever money you think you're saving, you're gonna end up spending more on frustration, buying the wrong gear, spending ammo down, sending ammo down range that you are wasting. I'm telling you, if you wanna learn long range the right way and do it the fastest, most economical way possible, definitely go check out that video up there and check out our XP Long Range Academy. We provide professional instruction. Myself and Ray Helms from X-Ring, we've teamed up on this venture. We want to bring you the absolute best long-range training possible, and I promise you, whatever money you're investing in that, you will save it many times over by learning long range more efficiently, by saving money and buying the right gear, by not wasting time, energy, and ammo at the range, for sure. So go check out that video if you'd like to learn long range. All right, so I do plan on providing a free PDF with the notes of the major points of this video on our Patreon account. So if you want to go there and download that for free, you're welcome to do so. We do have paid subscriptions on there that, if you want to go there and you want to support us, we really do appreciate that. Also, down in the description, you'll also find a link to a newsletter, absolutely free newsletter. We don't spam you. We don't sell your information. We just send you occasional updates on courses, discounts that we have on our shop, relevant information that we think that most of our clients will appreciate. All right, so who is this video for? And this is kind of important because this video is for anyone that does practical long-range shooting. And what do I mean by that? I mean long-range hunters, people that want to shoot PRS, NRL, recreational long-range shooters, things like that. Who this video is not for is for F-class or bench rest. And not because the information in this is factually relevant, it's because they use MOA as a culture. And it would be silly for you to show up and say, you know what, I'm gonna use MIL because Gary said to use MIL. Everyone else is gonna be using MOA. You should be using MOA if you're a bench rest shooter, and especially if you're an F-class shooters. Now, I will say when it comes to F-class and bench rest shooting, look, if you wanna shoot at one target, at one distance, with no time constraints on a manicured range, paved with wind flags, that is your jam, all right? That is not what I want to do, and I think between that and the specialized equipment that they use, they're essentially removing all reality out of shooting. It's amazing what they do. I don't particularly find that interesting, and if you do, that's great. They're shooting groups at distance, it's cool. They're also using, several $1,000 rifle rests that are micro adjustable. They're doing free recoil. Those are very different disciplines. And a lot of what they do has no application to the average practical long range shooter. If you're a hunter, PRS, NRL, or you're interested in doing those things, like what they do has nothing to do with what you want to do. You can't say, oh, well, they do this or they use that, because it has no application. And more importantly, if that's what you want to do, all your peers are going to be using MOA, so you should be using MOA too until something drastically changes. All right, so what's the intent behind this video? What the intent is not is to try to get you to switch, or anyone to switch from MOA to MIL. If you're happy using MOA, continue to use it. If you're invested in MOA, clearly it's been working for you. As a matter of fact, there are some advantages of MIL that I'm going to talk about. But chances are, if you're already using MOA and you've been using them without realizing that you're probably not going to utilize those advantages anyhow. Ultimately, MIL is easier, faster, and more efficient. Look, there is a way to quantify performance of MIL versus MOA, and it comes down to time, stress, variability. All right. So if you are not putting yourself in any time situations, you're not shooting multiple targets, you're not shooting from variable situations and positions and things like that, chances are you're never going to use the benefits of MIL to begin with. So just continue to use MOA. The problem that I have is the false reasoning and misconceptions people have behind choosing MOA or encouraging other people to choose MOA, because almost all of them, all the reasons that I've heard why MOA is better is completely wrong. The intent behind this video is nothing more than to educate people that have a passion for long range and want to fully understand, long range principles. And what I want to do is make sure we debunk all the misconceptions and, quite frankly, the bad dogma and the incorrect paradigms that are floating around this community. That's what I want to do. The principles we're going to cover are the foundation of long range science, the practical, real world applied ballistics, to steal from Brian Litz. And regardless of which system you use or you prefer, and I am not anti-MOA, I'm anti-bad information. I suggest that you watch this entire video and not skip through this. And I see this all the time where people start asking questions or making arguments that are addressed in different parts of the video. And I get it, it's YouTube, you're gonna skip around, because whether you use MOA, whether you use MIL, the things I'm gonna cover are gonna make you a better, smarter, more knowledgeable shooter. And that's what really this is all about. All right, so I'm gonna start off with the conclusions of this video, which are facts, by the way, and then I'll make a case for them as I go along. So the first one, and probably the most important one, is 1/10 of MIL is more precision than any rifle or shooter can utilize. Quarter MOA is simply a waste of clicks and pretend precision. You will not shoot smaller groups with MOA at any distance. You will not get a better 0 with MOA. You will not hit more targets with MOA. You cannot adjust impacts with greater fidelity with MOA. MOA has 0 advantages over MIL, but MIL does have many significant advantages over MOA. And I'm going to walk you through and prove all that in just a little bit. All right, so the first thing we need to do is make sure that we are talking and speaking the same language. So let's go ahead and define accuracy and precision. Precision as related to ballistics is how closely we can impact the same area with a rifle while holding the same exact point of aim. This is often referred to as grouping and typically described by group size measured in MOA, minutes of angle. A measurement in MOA to describe your group size is very common, and I think it's a good use of MOA. And I do think it's funny how some people use this as a gotcha. Like oh, you like MIL? How tightly is your group size? Well, it's, 1 MOA, whatever it is. Oh my God, you use 1 MOA. You're clearly, see, I told you MOA is better. It's the right tool for the right job in that particular instance. I don't disagree with that at all. So we have precision, how tightly we can group, right? That's essentially what it is. And then accuracy is the ability to direct that group or direct those impacts to the desired point of aim. How close we can get to that point of aim and center that group on that point of aim. That's what accuracy is. Now, accuracy is commonly used as a catch-all description for the combination of both accuracy and precision. And I'm sure there are times in this video that I'm going to use it as such. That's how most of us, we say accuracy, we really are meaning precision. So don't play the semantic games down in the comments just because it makes you feel smarter. It's silly and I don't have time for it. Now, accuracy and precision have a very important relationship because ultimately your accuracy capabilities are completely dependent on your precision capabilities. And I want you to write this down. This is extremely fundamental. This is long range 101. I want you to think about this, write it down. I'm going to put it in the notes. I'm going to put it in the Patreon as well. You cannot adjust individual impacts with greater fidelity than your group size at any distance. I want you to think about that. You cannot adjust individual impacts with greater fidelity than your group size at any distance. All right, so I want you to think about that, because if you're shooting a 1 MOA group, let's say you're doing it 1,000 yards. It's very unlikely, and we'll talk about that, why that is, that 99% of shooters not shooting a 1 MOA group at 1,000 yards. But let's say you are. All right, so we have a target that's exactly 10.47 inches, is exactly 1 MOA at 1,000 yards. You pull the trigger, bing, you hit the very right edge of that. You want to adjust that impact over a 1/2 MOA. So you put 2 clicks on that left. Now the statistical probability of you actually impacting exactly 5 inches to the left of where your last impact was is almost 0. You have a dispersion of 1 MOA, and where that round impacts inside that dispersion area is completely random. So again, we cannot adjust impacts with greater fidelity than our group size at any distance. That is a long-range fundamental. Write it down in stone, remember it, breathe it, live it. Now, we also have to understand the difference between mechanical or mathematical or theoretical accuracy and precision versus real-world accuracy and precision, because those are very different. And going back to my truck analogy, and just because you can turn those truck wheels 90 degrees doesn't mean you can turn that truck 90 degrees at 50 miles an hour. I know all truck wheels don't turn 90 degrees, by the way. There's going to be somebody in the comments there. You also can adjust your impacts 0.25 MOA, just because you have one mechanical device, the least important in the entire system, to be honest with you, as far as how it relates to precision. It's still important, but it's one of the least important. And it's the least important when it comes to your dispersion overall and standard deviation of your impacts. And we'll talk more about that. Your optic is one component of a far less precise firing system. It might be the most precise, but when we're talking about the rifle, the optic, the ammo, the shooter, the least precise component of that system determines the total precision capabilities of that entire system. You need to understand that. All right, so let's talk about real world or practical precision. If I ask you, what does your gun shoot? And let's say, John, you say, my gun shoots 1 MOA. No, it does not shoot 1 MOA. It shot a 3 or 5 round group of 1 MOA one time under perfect conditions, or it can shoot 1 MOA or X MOA for 5 shots in perfect conditions. That is not the mean, median, or average precision capability of that system. That is the absolute best precision it's capable of in absolute perfect conditions for a very limited number of rounds. That's what that is a snapshot of. So I want you to think about, like, if you shoot a 10-round group, does it still shoot 1 MOA? If you shoot a 20-round group, is it still within 1 MOA? Even in perfect conditions, with you providing perfect fundamentals and perfect concentration, your subsequent rounds are statistically just as likely to fall outside of that 1 MOA as it will within that 1 MOA. Folks, we start getting to a much larger sample, and your best group size is not the standard for accuracy of your firearm. You know, the reality is that your precision capability is not what you think it is. All right? And it's only because of a small sample size that not only do we shoot a small sample size and come to a conclusion, we shoot that small sample size in the absolute best conditions where we're feeling good, conditions are good, and we assume that is our, if I shot 1 MOA group, that's the precision I'm shooting all the time. It's not even close. All right, and I'll prove that to you in just a second, by the way. So when I was preparing the material for this video, I actually took some of the major concepts and kind of ran this by my good buddy Ray Helms, one of the smartest guys out there. And you guys know him, he's over on the X-Ring. If you're not following him, you're wrong. But I was basically doing a peer review. I'm like, Ray, and we bounce a lot of stuff off of each other. I was like, here's the main concepts of this. Am I getting any of this stuff wrong? What do you think? And he's like, not only do I agree with you, but it's funny because I just watched an episode of the Hornady podcast where they actually touch on a lot of the same things that you do. And I would highly recommend that you go watch the entirety of this. This is from Hornady podcast number 50. The thing that I thought was funny about this is that, they start off the podcast basically saying they almost didn't share the data that they share in this video. And they almost didn't do that podcast because, they understood that it was going to be controversial. And people's ego and people were going to get pissed off.
This is a topic that we've been wanting to put out in podcast form for a while. It's one that, with your guys' help, we've really embraced here at the factory, and it's changed how we produce bullets, how we produce ammo, how we set rifles up, how we ourselves set up our hunting and our competition rifles. And in the world of shooting and precision shooting specifically, there's a lot of dogma. There's a lot of things that just get propagated over and over and over and over and over again because that's what they read on the internet. And, there's a lot of famous websites out there that just keep putting out the same information. Someone reads it, ingests it, regurgitates it, and it just continues on. Well,
I think one thing we need to talk about before getting into the nitty-gritty of it is we're going to ruffle some feathers here. Like you said, that dogma that's been around forever, regardless of the source that it came from. Whether you read an article, you're a member of the firearms industry, that dogma is built into that as well. Whatever the source is, you have your own methods. They've worked for you as you perceive them in the past. So we're not trying to trash any of that in this. We're simply telling you what we've learned.
I mean, what a shame. What a shame that so many people in the shooting community can't take legitimate data and accept it as fact. If you can't handle proven data, your discipline isn't shooting. You're in a cult. That's what you are. And if that's the way that you view the world, if you can't handle your false paradigm being shattered because you've been believing wrong for a long time, you don't need to be a shooter. You need to go start a cult, or you need to become a cult member. But we've got to get out of this mindset that shooting is a religion and shooting is dogma. It's not. There is new information coming out all the time. There's better ways to test data than there has ever been before, and we are making big leaps and bounds. But there are a lot of people out there that latch on to certain ideas that they're just not willing to let go, or even they won't even, the fact that I say something like MOA sucks, just pisses some people off so bad. And if that's you, we got to get away from this as far as shooters. That's just nonsense. It's like politics or religion. All right, so the clips I'm getting ready to show you, I believe, started around the 23-minute mark of the full podcast. Make sure you go watch that. I think there's a lot of contextual information and a lot of background information that's important, right? And if we're talking about precision, you need to have all the information so that you can come out with a precise conclusion based on precise information. Anyways, this starts around 23 minutes. I have abbreviated and cut this up, and I will make it as short as possible. So check this out.
Not theoretical, statistics.
Yeah, this is legit.
But we did a ton of 100 shot groups with different variables, different cartridges, bullets, propellants, primers, and this is what the data says. As we take that data and we go repeat a new test, that test falls within this data. So these rules are proving themselves to be accurate. Get into this next slide. This is going to be the culmination of all this data, what we learned, okay? And this applies for if you're looking at load development. You know, does this load shoot better than another load? If you're just looking at how capable is my system, I have this rifle, I have this ammo, what are my capabilities? What will it really do?
Okay. I'll say one more point real quick before we get into that slide. Another thing that a lot of people might have to do is temper their expectations of what's realistically possible. And we because we mentioned ego at the beginning, you know, everybody wants a quarter-minute all day long gun.
If you do your part.
Right. If you do your part. And, yeah, they might not exist in that way.
It's not as prevalent as people think.
Yeah, exactly. To have a true quarter-minute gun, I haven't seen it yet. And I've had a couple people around the factory do that, bench rest shooters and, you know, whatever that, oh yeah, no, I got my load, everything's dialed in, this hammers. And then, you know, you force them to sit down and put it to the test, like an actual test, and it doesn't pan out the way you think it might. And so that's a big kick in the crotch for a lot of people.
It's hard to deal with.
Part of the ego.
It is.
It's not what anybody wants to hear. You want to hear, no, I can make this, you know, to the top of the line, you know, what my expectations are, but you might have to readjust your expectations.
Right.
You're not as consistent as an accuracy fixture. I mean, we've done some testing there where I'll shoot the same gun in an accuracy fixture and then I'll shoot it from the shoulder and the groups open up, obviously, right? Because I have more error in what I'm doing than just bolting it to a pedestal. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there is still a level of dispersion that is inherent with the system. And sometimes that's just the system doing what it's doing randomly. Yeah. There's a loss of data when you shoot multiple small groups and they're all very small, but between each of those groups, you don't correlate the point of aim and the mean point of impact between those. You have a tendency, and we'll see it here, you have a tendency for the data to look better than it actually is.
Yeah.
So what we have is on the left side, we're going to be looking at expected group size, extreme spread, like the amount of what's the max and min you could expect. So
of a group size measured in inches.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Or we could think of this in minute of angle, either one of them. This is all based on a 100-yard set, so you could think of it either way. And on the right side, what we're going to look at is what is the expected group size increase as we go up in sample size. So what we're going to do here is we're going to look at 3-shotters, 5-shotters, 10s, 20s, 30s, and 50s, and we're going to see what the effects of that are. So if we start out with
I want to say, yeah, just what we're looking at when we say 60 to 70% there, that's the variability as we repeat a bunch of 3-shot groups.
Yeah, the extreme spread in recorded, variation to shot or group to group.
Group to group, yep.
What we're saying, the 3-shot group is going to vary by 60 to 70% from the average. So what that would mean, if we had a rifle and we shot a whole bunch of 3-shot groups, let's say we shot 10 of them, making that statistically valid sample size of 30, we shoot 10 3-shot groups and we average all of them, and the average comes in at a half inch or a half minute. Within those 10 groups, you could have groups that are 60 to 70% smaller and 60 to 70% bigger. So on that half-minute gun, that means you're going to have groups that are 0.15 inches.
You getting flirting with an eighth of a minute.
Yeah, 180. That's the bench rest one-holers, right?
Yeah.
Or it could be as big as 0.85. So you're creeping up on an inch. That's with 3-shotters. Now let's look at a rifle system that shoots a little bit differently. What if your rifle averages an inch for 3-shot groups at 100? There's a plethora of hunting rifles out there that do exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
That means, being that our average is bigger, we just went from a half inch to an inch, the variability is the same, the 60 to 70%, but the starting point, the baseline is a larger number, so the variation will be larger. And you see there that the minimum expected group size there that you would see out of those 10 that you shot would be a 0.3 inch group. Your hunting rifle shot a quarter-minute group. At the same time, it shoots a 1.7 inch group.
Same rifle.
Same exact thing. Just we shot 10 3-shot groups, and of those, they averaged an inch. We had one little bitty guy, and we had one really big guy. That's that 60 to 70% expected variance on 3-shot groups. Now, for a lot of people, us definitely, when we were going through all this data processing after doing all this testing, that's not acceptable to me. That's too much. That doesn't tell me what I want to know. I want to know how good is this load or system or whatever.
Right.
That doesn't really tell me much. It could be anywhere from a quarter minute to almost 2 minutes. That's too big of a spectrum. I can't nail that down into a capability. So we're going to go from a 3-shot group to a 5-shot group. We were just told if we increase our sample size, we're going to get better data. So let's go to the next
how much
standard. Well, on average, when you go from a 3-shot group to a 5-shot group, everything's going to increase by 15%. So what that means is if we go back to, there's our variability we'll talk to you here in a second. We had our half-minute rifle with 3-shot groups. That exact same rifle that averaged a half-minute 3-shot group is now going to average 0.6 if we do 5-shot groups. So if we did 6 5-shot groups, getting that sample size at 30, or even more of them,
right,
what we'll see is our average got bigger because our sample size got bigger, but the variability shrunk. With a 5-shot group, our results are going to vary by 40 to 50% on the extremes. So we're going to shoot 0.3-inch groups and 0.9-inch groups. We're still down there in that quarter-minute range. So you can see how you can still get that result and think it's that good. But if you
Even
just kept doing it, it could be as bad as an inch. Let's look at that gun that shot worse, that 1-incher for the 3 shots. That thing increased 15%. So now our average group's going to be a little bit over an inch. Our smallest group is down at a 1/2 inch. Our biggest group is creeping a whole lot closer up to
towards 2 minutes.
We're working towards it. Yep. So as we go to the next one, we're not satisfied with 5-shotters. There's too much variation there. When you go from a 5-shot group to a 10-shot group, it's going to increase by about 30%. So that takes this group here that's at 0.6 and makes it come up to 0.75. Now your variance shrunk again, because as we increase sample size, our groups are going to get bigger just by nature, but the variance group to group to group shrinks down. So now we're seeing a spread where our smallest group is going to be 1/2 inch, our largest group is going to be 1 inch, our average is 3/4. When you go from a 10-shot group to a 20-shot group, your group sizes are going to increase by 20%. The variability gets driven down from 30 to 40% with a 10-shotter down to 20 to 25%. So what does that look like? That means we went from shooting 3/4 inch 10-shot groups on average to we're shooting almost 1 inch 20-shot groups on average. The smallest 20-shotter we're going to shoot is 0.7. The biggest is 1.1. That's
tightening it up.
That's starting to tell you a story of capability, right? If we go to that rifle that shoots worse, it's now averaging 1.8 inches for a 20-shotter. The small end of it's 1.3, the big end's 2.2. If you're not satisfied with that and you want to go from a 20-shotter to a 30-shotter, your group size is going to increase by about 10%, and your variability gets driven down to 15 to 20% spread range. So that means on 30-shotters, we're averaging an inch. On the small side, it'll be 0.8 inches. On the big side, it's 1.2. This gun that shot worse, now we're averaging 2 inches. Small side's 1.5, big side's almost 2.5. If you want statistically more valid data, you're in this battle between statistical validity of what your capabilities are and your ego.
Cool guy factor.
The cool guy factor. Okay. If you want to go from a 30 to a 50, your group size is going to increase by about 7%. The variability, though, goes down to 10. So almost no change from 50-shotter to 50-shotter. It's a touch over an inch, 1.06 inches for the average. The minimum group we would get on 50-shotters is 0.95, and the max is 1.16.
So less than 1/8 of a minute of variation.
Yeah, so if I was going to make a blanket true statement about what my system was capable of, I need to be in this 30-shot or more. Because I could you asked me a question, how good does that rifle shoot? And I say it's a 1-minute rifle. That statement would be true for these sorts of sample sizes because it's 1 minute every time, right? Mm-hmm. Same thing with this other side here. It's a 2-minute rifle. It's pretty much a 2-minute rifle every single time I do the test.
All right, so that was a really good clip, right? Hopefully you watched all of that, but basically what they get into is a high level of statistical analysis. And some of the cliff notes, some of the big takeaways there are basically if your sample size is less than 30 or so, your results are going to be way off, and obviously more is better. This specifically applies to accuracy testing, zeroing, low development, and truing at distance. Basically if you're just doing 1 5-round shot group to zero, you are not getting a true zero. If you're doing 1 or 2 shots, truing at distance, it's not nearly enough. You know, what it comes down to is small sample sizes are having you make choices or have you believe in things that are significantly wrong. You know, one of the other conclusions they talk about is basically quarter MOA guns don't exist. Once you extend that sample size beyond 5 rounds. But, you know, we need to understand all that stuff when it comes to how we analyze what our gun is doing and also take the sample size that we are making certain conclusions with into account. But what I will say, even in Hornady's examples, they're shooting groups in the best of conditions. You know, they're not factoring in less than ideal conditions for the shooter or environmentals. So once we start factoring in those, your group size and dispersion increase, as does your median accuracy or precision capabilities. And what I mean by that is, like, you know, every time I'm concentrating and I'm shooting a 5-round group, let's say the weather's perfect, the conditions are perfect, the range is perfect, but I'm putting so much concentration into this one round and making sure that the next 4 rounds, everything's the same, right? I haven't moved my face, I haven't done anything, I'm grouping. I'm putting a lot of concentration on that. Folks, when we are shooting on average, we are not that self-aware. We're not putting that level of concentration. So therefore, our dispersion rate is going to go up. Our group size is going to extend. And even if we did, you know, 10 100-round groups, I don't think that is still an accurate portrayal of our median accuracy or precision when we're shooting on average. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, so now let's talk about MOA versus mil. And I hear this all the time, Gary, quarter MOA is better because it's 0.25 at 100 yards versus 0.36. Well, first of all, determine right now if you agree with that. Okay? Because if you do agree with it, you're absolutely wrong. First of all, last time I checked, 1.047 divided by 4 is actually 0.26. So it's actually 0.26 inches at 100 yards versus 0.36 inches. And hopefully, it probably won't even, there we go. Let's see, let me hide my face. I know the video's gotten much better already. All right, so as you can see right here, we have a quarter MOA. That's 0.26 inches. Right here, all right, right here we have 1/10 of a mil. That is 0.36 inches. This little dot right there, that dot, that's the difference. 0.10 inches, 1/10 of an inch, folks, and that's actually a little larger than 1/10 of an inch. I was trying to get it just the right size, and it was actually like almost like 0.12. Yeah. So, you know, that 1/10 of an inch dot right there, that's the actual difference between quarter MOA or 1/10 of a mil. So we know that the difference between 1/10 of a mil and quarter MOA is at most 1/10 of an inch. And outside of even what Hornady was talking about a larger sample size, I want to give you a way to analyze and give you the best possible chances to prove your own confirmation bias, right? About the capabilities of MOA versus mil. So here's what I want you to do to analyze and test to see if you are even capable of utilizing the precision and accuracy capabilities of quarter MOA. I want you to shoot 5 5-round groups. Shoot 5 5-round groups. And then what you're going to do is you're going to put them in a ballistic app like Ballistic X or some other one. I don't care which one you get. But what you're going to do is you're going to mark the exact same point of aim in each one of those. And then you're going to overlay those, and you're going to look at basically the center of your group or the median point of impact. That's really what that is. So the median point of impact. And between those 5 groups, if you have a standard deviation of greater than 0.10 inches, standard deviation of center, you cannot possibly utilize the full capabilities of quarter MOA when it comes to that level of precision. Because the center of those groups and the standard deviation of center of those groups is greater than the difference between quarter MOA and 1/10 of mil. And that's just one way to look at it. And that's with still a very small sample size. So think about that. And that's just one reason why you can't utilize the full capabilities of quarter MOA, that it's really a waste. I got many other reasons why you can't utilize quarter MOA. Number one, you can't hold a gun within an inch at 1,000 yards. You regularly introduce more error than quarter MOA. And what I mean by that, we just talked about at 100 yards, it's 1/10 of an inch. So at 1,000 yards, the difference is actually 1 inch exactly. You as a shooter introduce more error than will be covered by that 1/10 of a mil versus quarter MOA. Just a fact. Another reason you can't utilize a quarter MOA is because of parallax. Folks, parallax, or the ability to project our reticle on the same plane as our target, you are never going to get that exact. So therefore, even if you hold the gun perfectly still, the parallax is allowing for a greater difference of more than 1 inch at 1,000 yards and more than 0.10 inches at 100 yards. Every time that you pick your head up and get back down the gun, you're going to introduce some parallax error, and it's going to be greater than the difference between a quarter MOA and a 1/10 of a mil. It's just a fact. All right, so I already gave you one test you can test for yourself. You shoot 5 groups of 5 rounds, and the median point of impact, the center of your group, is greater than a 1/10 of an inch at 100 yards. You can't utilize the capabilities of quarter MOA. Another way that you can test this for yourself is, given you cannot adjust impacts with greater fidelity than your group size at any distance, then if you do not have an average group size or an average precision capabilities of 0.36 inches at 100 yards or less, 0.26 inches or quarter MOA is an absolute waste of time. It's additional clicks for no reason. So no, MOA is not more precise than Milliradian in any sort of practical application of ballistics, period. It just isn't. 1/10 of mil is more precision than anyone can possibly utilize. That's just a fact. Now, with that being said, if you prefer MOA, great. If you like MOA, if you know it, you use it. If you've never had problems with MOA, I got no problems with you using it, all right? It's a great system. It absolutely does work. Just don't say that it's more precise than MOA, because you're just factually wrong. It's just simple as that. All right, folks. Well, look, we covered a lot, but honestly, we only covered the tip of the iceberg. There was a lot of different points and concepts and different things that I wanted to cover, but I decided to leave it out just so we can keep this as concise as possible. I'm sure you got questions, comments. Keep them respectful. Let's keep a healthy debate going on about this. You know, I knew that this topic would be controversial. Covering this topic doesn't do me any real good. Like I'll lose as many people as I gain. So, but I just think it's important because it's the truth. It's good information, and it's just the right thing to talk about. And it needs to be hashed out because a lot of people believe some things that are just fundamentally incorrect. But if you do like content like this, make sure you like, subscribe, throw them a comment down below. And if you're not already, make sure you go follow us on our other social media sites. We do a lot of cool things on there. And then every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, we have our live Dangerous Liberty podcast where we talk about guns, gear, training, politics. We have special guests on all the time. And you get to join in on the conversation. And maybe we'll even do a live podcast just discussing this. And maybe you can hit me with some questions and challenges live that we can address those, pull out the whiteboard or whatever else. Anyways, we have fun on there, so make sure you join us. You'll have a good time too. And you know, while Guns and Gear is great, what we're really about is training, so make sure you go to ParamountTactical.com. Go check out our upcoming training schedule. We have tactical carbine, handgun, medical courses, driving courses, low-light courses. And folks, if you want to learn long range the right way, go check out our XP Long Range Academy courses that we're doing in conjunction with Ray Helms from the X-Ring channel. Make sure you go follow him too. And for all your gear needs, make sure you go to ParamountTactical.com. But until next time, stay armed, stay ready. We'll talk to you soon.